The Earth is breaking. Is energy security worth the ecological price?
You know, the global energy map is being completely redrawn as we speak, and right at the center of this huge shakeup is natural gas. Today, we're going to look at three big interconnected stories that are reshaping everything from geopolitics to local environments and even the entire fight against climate change. So, we're going to explore three critical fronts. First up, Europe's historic, and I mean historic, divorce from Russian gas. Then, we'll look at the hidden environmental price of the US gas boom that's stepping in to fill that gap. And finally, we have a shocking climate revelation from space that could honestly change everything we thought we knew about natural gas. All right, so let's start with the geopolitics. For over 50 years, Europe was deeply, deeply dependent on Russian energy. Well, that all changed in 2022. After Russia invaded Ukraine, it weaponized its energy supplies. And the result? A complete and what looks to be a permanent break. And look, this isn't just some political promise. The European Union has put legally binding deadlines on the books. By April 2026, boom, short-term LNG contracts are done. By January 2027, the long-term ones follow. And by September 2027, all Russian pipeline gas is supposed to be phased out. Make no mistake, this is a structured, irreversible shift in policy. This quote from Dr. Fatih Birol, the head of the International Energy Agency, really captures the scale of this. He calls it historic, and he's right. It marks the end of an entire era. The takeaway here is that Europe has fundamentally changed its energy posture for the foreseeable future. But here's the twist. To get away from Russia, Europe has had to create a new dependency, this time on liquefied natural gas, or LNG. You know, that's natural gas that's been supercooled into a liquid so it can be shipped around the world. And get this, over half of its LNG imports now come from just one place, the United States. This just creates a whole new set of vulnerabilities to things like global price swings or even extreme weather. Okay, so that leads us right into our second front, and you can see how this all connects. Where is all this new US gas coming from? Well, the answer, for the most part, is from hydraulic fracturing, or fracking. And that brings us to a major, major controversy right at the heart of America's gas boom. So what is the issue? Well, it's something called the Halliburton loophole. This is a really critical legal exemption that was passed way back in 2005. It basically tells the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, that it can't regulate the fluids injected underground during most fracking operations, at least not under the Safe Drinking Water Act. This leaves all the oversight to a patchwork of different state agencies, and that's created a huge regulatory gap. And this is where things get really unexpected. Research, especially in the Appalachian region, is now connecting fracking to more severe flooding. It's kind of a three-step process. First, you've got the high-pressure injection underground messing with natural water pathways. Second, on the surface, you're clearing all this land for well pads, which increases rapid runoff. And third, when heavy rains hit these now destabilized landscapes, the result is faster and much more destructive flooding. The real-world impact of this regulatory gap becomes crystal clear when you just compare different states. On one side, you've got states like New York and Vermont that have banned fracking entirely. But on the other, you've got states like West Virginia and Kentucky, where a lack of strong oversight has been linked to making catastrophic floods in 2016 and 2022 even worse. It's pretty stark contrast. And this quote from the Vermont Journal of Environmental Law just hits the nail on the head. Water always finds the gaps. And in this case, the most dangerous gap is in the law itself. The very legal framework that's enabling this energy boom might also be worsening natural disasters in the same communities where the gas is being pulled from the ground. Now for our third and final front. For years, natural gas has been sold as this cleaner bridge fuel, right? The thing that's going to help us transition away from coal. But what if that whole idea is wrong? New data from space is radically challenging that narrative by showing us the true climate impact of the entire system. And here it is, the big headline number. According to the first wave of data from the MethaneSat satellite, actual methane emissions from oil and gas operations are, on average, 50% higher than what companies and countries are officially reporting. I mean, that is a huge discrepancy. Let's just look at one example to see how big this is. The Permian Basin in Texas is the world's biggest oil-producing region. The official EPA inventory has one number for its methane emissions. But what MethaneSat actually saw from orbit was an emissions rate 4 times higher. So what does that mean? It means our official accounting has been dramatically, seriously underestimating the problem. And this really matters because the industry has pledged to reduce its methane intensity, that's basically the percentage of gas that leaks out during production, to just 0.2%. But this new satellite data shows that even the best performing U.S. basins are leaking at 3 times that rate. And in parts of Texas, the leak rate is over 15 times higher than the industry's own target. So, what happens when you put all 3 of these stories together? Well, you start to see a much more complex and, frankly, a much more challenging picture of the future of natural gas. Let's just connect all the threads here. A geopolitical crisis is pushing Europe to bet its entire energy security on LNG. That LNG is being supplied by a U.S. fracking boom, which is enabled by a legal loophole that's having serious environmental consequences on the ground. And now, new data is revealing the entire global system has a far bigger climate impact than we ever accounted for. And this is not a small-scale issue we're talking about. Natural gas has seen absolutely explosive growth. It's a cornerstone of the energy system now. Our reliance on it is massive, and it's still growing, which just makes the stakes of all these interconnected problems incredibly high. Which, of course, brings us to our final question. For decades, natural gas has been called a bridge fuel, a bridge to a cleaner future. But when you look at the geopolitical shifts, the on-the-ground impacts, and its newly revealed climate footprint, you have to ask, where is that bridge actually leading?
The bridge fuel is burning. What legacy will we leave in our soil?